Monday's homework that is talking about angle 5. So I'm going to go ahead and try and highlight that angle that they're looking for right here. So they're telling us that angle 5 is 105 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and write that number in. And then the easiest way is to just go ahead and fill in the individual angles that will complete the line. So by that I mean for each straight line, equals 180 degrees. So if they tell us this is 105, I know that this 6 has to be 75. And then when I see another, so this is also a straight line, so I'm going to know that this is 105. And then here this 7 is going to be 75. So we know that when two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, these 4 angles right here are actually the same 4 angles that are right here. So if I were to, when you look at this, when I slide that up, those 4 angles are the same as these 4 angles. So from that, we're able to see that angle 2, what they're looking for, is going to be the same as angle 6. All right, so triangle ABC was dilated with the origin as the center of dilation according to the scale factor of 2. The coordinate points of A are 2, -4. What are the coordinates of A prime? So when we're working with a dilation, they're going to give us a scale factor. And as we've learned, a scale factor is represented by the number K, or the letter K. So I'm going to write K equals 2. So from our notes, we had our rule for dilation written like this. So from that, we know that our K and our X are being multiplied, because there's no indicator that they're being added or subtracted or divided. So when they're right next to each other, we know they're being multiplied. So we're going to be able to take our scale factor of 2 and go ahead and substitute it in. So now we have 2, -4. And when I substitute my 2 in, I am able to see what would happen to my final answer. So you're going to run a write A prime in that manner. So here, what rule, remembering rule describes this transformation. So first we need to decide what type of transformation this is. If the orientation stays the same, if the shape doesn't change the way that it's faced, we're going to see, so here we have our pre-image, and when I slide that up, I see that it fits right there. So that means we're going to be looking at a slide. The proper term is a translation. So when we have a translation, we're looking at the directions up, down, left, and right. So left and right are going to be associated with our X coordinate, and then that leaves up and down for our Y coordinate. So what I like to do is to pick a letter. So I'm going to choose E, and I'm going to go from E to E prime. So I need to figure out if it moves to the left and right first. So because we're seeing how it affects our X and our Y, because that is how we will determine the rule. So it looks like it's not moving at all to the left or right because it's right above it. So if we have an X that's not moving, we're just going to leave it. So this just stays as an x. And then our y, we're going to want to count the amount of times that we had to go up or down in order. And then knowing that left and right, up is going to be positive, down is going to be negative, left is going to be negative, and right is going to be positive. So that will help you write the rule. All right, this one's asking us for the type of transformation. So again, looking at our orientation, I'm going to look at our pre-image right here. So if I were to slide this, even if I went up and right, down, I would never be able to attach the get the right location. So I know that it can't be a translation. So, and the other thing I want to do is if I wanted to see if I could reflect it. But if I were to fold this either on the X or the Y, the shapes would not be on top of each other. So since they are the same size, we're left with only the last one. So there are the four types, and it is one of those. All right, here triangle ABC was translated 4 units down and 4 units to the left. The coordinates of point A are 3, 3, and what are the coordinates of A prime? So this one is a little bit tricky because it has listed them in a specific order because we want to make sure our X always comes first. So in this case, we have our 3 and our 3 for A. So they're saying 4 units down. So down is going to be associated with a negative, and left is also going to be negative. But the thing about up and down, that's going to be with our y, and this one's going to be with our x. So we have to make sure that our rule, they're saying, is x minus 4 and y minus 4. So make sure they're listed in the wrong order, but you can then. So you're going to take each of you're going to do 3 minus 4 and get A prime, and 3 minus 4, get A prime. All right, triangle ABC was dilated with the origin as the center according to the scale factor. And the coordinate points A are 2, negative 4. What are the coordinates of A prime? So this one, again, we're looking at dilation, and we have our scale factor. So this time, we have a K equals 1/2. So when we want to find our scale factor, remember this is our KX, K times X, K times Y, and then we can go ahead and substitute our points. So we have 2, negative 4. So then when we want to substitute our scale factor, now our scale factor is 1/2. So 1/2 times 2, comma, 1/2 times negative 4. All right. So then you'll be able to get A prime by simplify this. All right. Again, we're trying to figure out what type of transformation we have here. So if we had a translation, we would be able to take this shape and slide it directly into the place that it belonged. But here, it looks like we're not going to be able to translate it. It also is pretty obvious that we won't be able to reflect it. So the only thing left, and since it's the same size, we see, just to show you, this is 1, this is also 1. So that's just like a way to check that it's not a dilation. So there's only one type left out of the 4. All right, here we have, this one is a little bit tricky. So I'm going to go ahead so we're asking for a rule. So if I were to slide this up right here, it looks like it almost could be a translation because the shape is very similar, but if when you look really closely, this does not lie right on top of the other shape. So, and it's not a reflection, so we're only left down now with a rotation. So the best way to find out a rotation is to identify some points. So I'm going to use the points S and S prime. So I'm going to find these points in order to find my rule. So S prime is located at, here's my origin, so 1, 2, so negative, oh, that's S prime, negative 2, positive 1, 2, 3, 4, positive 4, and S is located at 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4. So when we look at our X and our Y, we see that we have this one, the X and the Y both changed. So we have our X and our Y, they both changed signs. So the way to indicate a change on a coordinate is by putting a negative sign in front of it. All right. There's Monday and Tuesday. So going on to Wednesday. All right, so we have another question that looks like that first one. I'm going to go ahead and says angle 5 is 105, 105 degrees. What is the measure of angle 1? So angle 5, 105. And if I were to fill in my other numbers, so we have our same numbers from before, 105, 75. So if you want to just I'm going to point out that our vertical angles are congruent. So vertical angles are always congruent. So if I were to take a little snapshot of this right here and drag it up, you see that they fit exactly in the same location. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. And so you can see what angle 1 would be like. So triangle ABC was dilated with the origin as the center of dilation according to a scale factor of 1. The coordinates points of A are 2, negative 4. What are the coordinate points of A prime? So now once again we have K equals 1, and then we have our rule again. So we have K x comma K y, so those are being multiplied. And when we substitute our numbers in, we're going to have 1 times 2 comma 1 times negative 4. So again, make sure you simplify. There. All right, so now we have our pre-image right here that I'm tracing. So if I were to translate this up, I see that it's the same size, but it's upside down. So this one, we're going to have to locate an axis that is being reflected. So we see that it's being reflected over the x-axis. So when the x-axis reflection, so when the x-axis is being reflected over, I'm going to give an example. So the y coordinate changes. I'm going to give that example here. So we have our, we have B is at 1, 2, 2, 1, and B prime is at 2, negative 1. So we can see our x and our y. We can see that our y changed signs. So remember that to indicate a sign change, you put a negative in front of the sign, in front of the coordinate. All right, here, what type of transformation is this? So I like to try and eliminate B1s. So I'm going to go ahead and trace this one. So if I were to slide this, remember we can't go diagonal, so we're going to have to find a way to get to this shape by sliding up and down, and look at that. So once I slid up 1 and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It fits perfectly. So when we translate, we slide. So write the real word. So slide is our other word. So write the correct transformation. All right. Which of the following rules could form a rotation? Okay, rotation. With a rotation, we are going to have, I'm actually just going to try and name these ones. So if we, this is a right 4 down 2. So that is not the way rotations are written. This one is being multiplied, which is not a rotation. This one, so we have these two, and these look very similar. But remember, when you have a reflection, a reflection is going to look like, I should do another color. So this one right here, this is actually a reflection over the x-axis. All right, so there's only one choice left. Hopefully you can narrow that down. All right, triangle ABC was reflected over the x-axis. Reflected over the x-axis. The coordinate points of A are 3, 3, 3. What are the coordinates of A prime? So we're looking for A prime when it's reflected over the x-axis. So when the x-axis is being reflected over, our y coordinate changes. So our rule for that, x comma y, and then x comma change y. So hopefully you can look at this and determine how to determine that. All right, we are always going back to some interest. So our principal that we're given is 10,000, our simple interest rate. So I'm going to go ahead and write my formula. They gave us I equals PRT. So when we substitute our numbers, we have to be careful. We have to have no percents and years. So right here we have a percent, and right here we have months. So those are two things we need to fix. So to fix this, we're going to have to divide by 12 months because there are 12 months in a year. So that will leave us with 3. And 14% divided by 100 will give us 0.14. So when I substitute these numbers, I'm going to have 10,000 times 0.14 times 3. This is our years. This is our percent as a decimal. When I solve this, I will get I equals some number. So that number is going to go right here. So in order to find this total amount, we can simply add. When I say simply add, in order to find the total amount, you're going to have to add your principal back to your interest. All right, we are almost done. I'm going to go ahead and do some tracing to see what type of transformation this is. So if I can slide this shape into the other one without turning it, so I don't think on this thing I can even find a way to rotate it. So we see that it is a translation, but they're asking us for the rule. So in order to find the rule, we need to move up, left, right. That was up, down, right, and left. So remember, this is going to be our x, and this is going to be our y. So up is going to be positive, down is going to be negative, right is going to be positive, left is going to be negative. So we have to figure out, I like to choose a point. So I'm going to try V and V prime. So I'm trying to get from V to V prime because this is our pre-image. So we have to go pre-image to image. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to go 1, 2. All right, so if I go 2 to the right, and then 1, 2, 3 down, hopefully you can use these two things to then apply them to your rule. So to write the rule, you would do x comma y, and then you have x with something comma y something. And you can fill those in. All right, hopefully this helps. If you have any other questions, please come to tutoring.